and welcome to Ask Your Academic. Today's session will cover the MSc Human Nutrition, and we are joined by our programme lead, Alison Parrett. We've received a number of questions through the registration form, so we'll do our best to answer all those questions. If you have any further questions, you can pop them in the chat box, and we'll keep an eye on that as well. If after the session you have any further questions, you can send them to the programme administrator and they'll do their best to direct your inquiry that way. Those details can be found in the programme web pages on our website, but I'll pop the details for the Human Nutrition programme into the chat box. I'll also pop in some useful links for you in there too. We are recording the session today. That link will be shared probably once all our sessions are complete. So you'll not receive that immediately, but you will receive that link. So we do only have 30 minutes, so I think we'll get started on our questions so we can cram as much in as possible. So our first question we've got, how and when do you choose your specialism?
Okay, thanks, Naomi. Welcome to you all. So the specialisation, some people know exactly what specialisation they want to do, others don't. So you can tell us on day one, and usually in one of the introductory sessions we say, what are you thinking of doing? But we don't enrol you onto this specialisation course until later on. So at the end of October, beginning of November, we usually run what we call specialisation sessions. They're with the specialisation course leads. They give you an overview of each specialisation and give you the opportunity to ask any questions you have. And then after those sessions have taken place, we give you a couple of weeks to make up your mind, and then we'll enrol you onto the specialisation course you've chosen.
Perfect. Would it be possible to change specialism throughout the year if I cannot decide at the beginning of the term?
Well, sort of going on from what I've just said, you don't have to decide at the beginning of the term, and you've got until that probably mid-November date where you have to make a decision. We've had some people change very late in the day, but it depends on room. So it's better to take advantage of those sessions in late October, November, ask all your questions and then make your decision. And we do realise people don't really know what one they want to choose, and that's why we do it at that time of year.
Great. I want to specialise in public health nutrition. Does the programme offer any field work? Okay,
so like all the specialisations, there's no true what you'd call field work, but within public health nutrition, what you do during that specialisation is designing an intervention, and that means that you will have to go out and talk to experts in the field who can give you information to do the needs assessment for that intervention. And as with all specialisations, a lot of our teaching is done by experts in the field. So you'll have the opportunity to meet people who work in public health nutrition. And there are opportunities to do some shadowing or volunteering in that sector as well.
Great, thank you. Could you tell us a bit about the main differences between the clinical nutrition, obesity and weight management, and sports and exercise nutrition specialisms?
I'll try. So clinical nutrition, you're thinking about nutrition in diseases, and really what we're talking about here is diseases where nutrition is a causal or a risk factor. And we're talking about patients. When people are talking about clinical nutrition, we're talking about people who have the disease and how that can be managed and treated. That differs from public health nutrition, where we're talking about prevention of diseases. So often those are the two that people get mixed up with, clinical and public health nutrition. So the public health nutrition is about the prevention of the diseases and how the population can prevent or reduce the risk of those diseases. In sports and exercise nutrition, we're talking about exercise and how it relates to performance, how it relates to health, how it relates to physical activity. So we're talking about both elite athletes, but also recreational athletes, and also just general exercise that someone may do just going to the gym and so on. In obesity and weight management, we're talking about something that comes up in clinical nutrition and it comes up in public health nutrition, but we take it into a much more detailed diagnosis of it. So we're looking at overweight and obesity from the point of view of the causes, the treatments, the managements, how to assess it, and so on and so forth. So it's taken a part that comes up in other places and really giving it a detailed evidence-based view of it.
Are you guaranteed a place on your preferred specialism?
Okay, so as we're getting increasing numbers, we have had 1 year in the last 20 odd years that specializations have been running where students haven't had their first choice. So we do try and accommodate students on their first choice specialization. Sometimes we have to negotiate that. So we always ask what your second choice is. Now, as I say, that's only happened once in the last 20 years. So generally, you do get your first specialization. When we have had to move people, it's because a course has reached the maximum capacity that we can take for it. And obviously, if you're over the maximum capacity, that can have an effect on your student experience. So it's sometimes better that we make sure that we cap the numbers of a certain specialization. When we've had to move people, we look at what background they've come in with, what their career aspirations are, what their grades on the program are so far, and we try and make decisions based on that. Okay.
Thank you. Does this course provide teaching on laboratory techniques in human nutrition? Okay,
so if you're just talking about laboratory techniques, there are a couple of practicals where you'll be in what I would call a science laboratory, and you'd be learning the techniques in that laboratory. Some of our students have done laboratory-based work before, some haven't, so we start from basics, we teach you the techniques you might need to use. If you're talking about nutrition techniques, though, there are other techniques that we also teach throughout the course around maybe measuring body composition or assessing diet in people, and those techniques are taught to you throughout the course. And so you'll have sessions on those sorts of things as well as those laboratory sessions. If you choose to do your research dissertation in a laboratory setting, then you'd have all the training that you'd need to carry out the techniques that were needed and to ensure that you're safe in the lab as well. So there's training there.
Great, that kind of covers the next question as well. Our next one we've got, how does one do the research here, as I am from Kenya?
Okay, so this is a face-to-face program. It's not online distance learning, although the last couple of years, because of COVID, obviously, we've had students who have been working abroad. But for the year starting September 22, we expect our students to be in Glasgow and attending face-to-face. If there are real problems, maybe another COVID lockdown comes along, we will ensure that there's some sort of video of the laboratory session. That's what we did the last couple of years. So we had a sort of video recording of the laboratory session, and students had to answer questions at different points, had to see different things going on. So there is a capacity to do that, but we do expect students to be here and attending face to face.
Is there anything I can do to prepare for the programme?
Sorry, I'm just realising my battery's running low and I'm not,
not
quite sure why, because it should all be plugged in. Okay, to prepare for the programme, hopefully this is going to work. Oh, I'm not sure that is. Can you give me 1 minute, Naomi, and I'm going to...
Yeah, absolutely.
Come back
Don't
on.
let me cut it off. Just while Alison's sorting her battery, if you've got any questions, just remember, if you pop them in that chat box, we do have a couple of other questions to get to, so we should potentially have a few minutes at the end to answer any additional questions.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I'm back and I'm plugged in. So to prepare for the programme, okay, so we have students from all sorts of backgrounds. Some come from very nutrition-based backgrounds, have done a lot of nutrition before. Some have had no nutrition in their programs, undergraduate programs. So we are aware that you're coming from different academic backgrounds. So if you have no nutrition background at all, there's a book called Introduction to Human Nutrition, which is part of the Nutrition Society series of books. And it is edited by Mike Gibney. And that's what we recommend students to have a read of and a browse through before the programme starts. In about August time, as you start registering on the system, we also open up our Moodle, that's our virtual learning environment, that's called Nutrition Introduction, Human Nutrition Induction. And that gives you a lot of resources, both academic and non-academic resources that you can utilise. What I would say in terms of preparing for the programme, broadly speaking, is that be aware that it is quite an intense programme, and that the first few weeks are incredibly intense, because during the first few weeks, not only do you do your courses or the start of your courses, but you also do some things that we consider are necessary for to learn at MSc level. So critical analysis, numeracy and statistics, communication skills. So you've got a whole lot of things going on. So I think if you can prepare by knowing that that's going to happen in the first few weeks, that will stand you in good stead for those first few weeks. But as I say, if you're unsure about nutrition, then I would recommend Introduction to Nutrition by the Nutrition series, but any good human nutrition introductory book will be good.
Perfect. Can you tell us a bit more about the modules? I don't know if this is more to do with there's is that optional modules, mandatory modules? Okay, so
we've got 5 core modules: nutrition and nutritional requirements through the life cycle, digestion, absorption and nutritional metabolism, public health and eating behaviour, dietary and nutritional assessment, and a research proposal. So nutrients and nutrition through the life cycle, we're looking at, you know, the basics of recommendations for nutrients, what nutrients do, how our requirements for nutrients change through all stages of the life cycle. So it's giving you the basic understanding of nutrients, basically, that whole course. Dietary and nutritional assessment runs alongside that course. They're very integrated. So this is a course where you're looking at competencies that you may use in the nutrition arena. So you're looking at how we assess nutrition, how we assess diets, what are the methodologies, what are the pros and cons of those methodologies, when you might use them, that sort of thing. Public health and eating behaviour is the start of looking at things like some of the non-communicable diseases, so looking at cancer, looking at cardiovascular disease, but also looking at the public health cycle and how we learn about the nutritionally diseases that have a nutrition risk using that cycle. The digestion absorption is obviously about the digestion absorption of nutrients, what happens to them, what's their fate, how the metabolism of those nutrients occurs. And then the final core course is a research proposal where it's student-led and you work in groups facilitated by an academic, and you design a piece of research. Now, this doesn't relate to your actual research in the research project, but this is an entirely theoretical, blue sky thinking piece of research. And you work in a group and each student contributes to that design. You think about what the study design is, what the methodology is, how much it would cost, who you're going to disseminate that work to, what impact it's going to have, what ethical things you need to think about. So you think about a study from start to finish in a theoretical way. So that's the core courses. And then I've already said briefly about the specialization courses, of which we've got 4. And then if you meet the grade point average that you needed to go on to the research dissertation, you do your research dissertation in the area that your specialization was in. So one of those 4 specializations.
Great, thank you. Can you tell us a wee bit more about the assessments through the programme?
Yeah, so obviously the last couple of years as COVID has happened, we completely went to coursework assessments. Next year we're bringing in a mixture of coursework and exam assessments. So some courses are staying as completely coursework. So the first 2 courses of the programme, Food and Nutrients and Nutrition through the Life Cycle and Dietary and Nutrition Assessment, are staying as coursework, and then some of the other courses are bringing in an exam. That coursework can be something as straightforward as an essay. It can be a more applied essay where you have to gather data from, for example, the National Diet and Nutrition Survey, and work with that data to answer a specific question or to compare it to a recommendation that's seen in a journal article. It can be writing a blog, it can be a press release, an evidence-based critique, data handling, write-up of a practical report. So there's a wide range of different coursework assessments. Within the exams, some of them will be essays, some of them will be short answers, and there will be data handling and interpretation questions in some of those as well. So it depends on the course, but there's a whole variety of assessments that are used throughout the programme.
Okay. And what types of projects can we do?
Okay, so at a very broad level, you can do a lot of different projects. So obviously it has to be tailored to your specialization. And what happens is your specialization lead will give you a range of projects that cover the research that's ongoing in that area at the moment, either through their work or through colleagues in human nutrition or through colleagues further afield. And from the list of research areas that your specialization lead gives you, you'll be asked for choices and we'll place you in a project. The types of projects can vary. So we have some very highly lab-based projects, so you're in the lab the whole time. There are projects that are much more community-based, where you're either doing a questionnaire or a survey, or you're doing focus groups with members of the community, whichever target population you want to look at. There are literature reviews. So if you're particularly interested in a niche topic and you want to do a literature review on it, that's fine. We also have access to large databases, so we have some secondary analysis projects as well. So there is something for everybody, something for people to either build their existing skills or to develop new skills, depending where they want to go and what career aspirations they have.
Perfect. And the last question that we've got here is, how does accreditation work?
Okay, so we're accredited by the Association for Nutrition, which is the professional body for nutrition. We have to assess competencies based on their core competencies, and those are assessed, integrated into all our assessments. you have to pass those competencies as well as passing the assessments in terms of the MSc. If you pass the assessments in terms of the MSc, you'll get your MSc, but if you pass your assessments in terms of the core competencies that are assessed, you'll get your MSc and you'll be eligible for direct registration with the Association for Nutrition, and you become an associate registered nutritionist. So all the way through, you need to be thinking about the core competencies, particularly around professional behaviour and what's expected of a professional nutritionist in the field.
Thank you. We don't have any questions in our chat box. So Alison, I don't know if there's anything that you feel hasn't been covered, or anything else you would like to add in?
I guess just for a few minutes to say that some of our teaching is not didactic. So we have different ways of teaching, and the first 2 courses are taught as flipped teaching. That is, the students are given information to work with at home, and then come into the session and there's much more a discussion, a looking at the evidence, and working around that. That can be quite a challenge for students coming into the programme, because lots of the undergraduate courses aren't taught like that. So it's just to give you that sort of idea that that's what you may come into in the first 2 courses anyway. And then some of the other courses are didactic. You know, a teacher stands at the front, gives you the information, but most of our courses have interactive elements. We expect our students to ask, to discuss, to question, and everything is evidence-based. So we expect people to go and look at the journal articles, ask what the evidence for any statement is, think about things like study designs, where the evidence has come from, what type of studies, that sort of thing. So it's just trying to think that it is a step up from undergraduates. Everyone finds it difficult at the start, but it's about developing those skills as you go along. And yeah, I think that's it really.
Great. Well, if there's no additional questions, I think we can wrap up there. If you do think of any questions after the session, as I said, you can send them to the programme administrator and they'll point you in the right direction if they can't answer the question themselves. Yeah, so the recording, as I said, will be sent out in due course, so keep an eye on your inbox for that coming. So thanks everybody for your time. Thanks Alison for answering all those questions. We hope you found that helpful. And yeah, in the meantime, take care of yourselves and we hope to see you all very soon. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Thanks Naomi, thank you.